Hotter Than Health podcast, a plant-dominant podcast for those looking to expand and elevate their lives. Each week, we will bring you provocative conversations and topics, entertaining interviews, and some of the biggest names in health and wellness to answer your burning questions. You will leave each episode with tangible tips and takeaways and understand what it truly means to live an energized and optimized life. Welcome back to Hotter Than Health. Today we have an amazing interview with one of my favorite people. I actually have not met her, so I've just cyber stalked her forever and truly have just loved what she's putting out there. I think she's easy to follow. What she's doing, it's not reinventing the wheel. She is just so organic in what she is doing. She seems extremely genuine on her social media presence, and then when I actually got to meet her over Zoom, it was the exact same thing. This girl takes no shit, but also talks no shit, puts up with no shit, and I just love her. We have Katherine Mason on the podcast. Katherine Mason is an entrepreneur. She is the founder and CEO of Sculpthouse and Sculpthouse Boutique. She's a master lagree fitness trainer. She works with pre and postnatal. She's been 9+ years in the fitness and fashion industry, and she has places in Atlanta and Dallas, Texas. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But this girl is all over the place. And let me tell you, her story is entertaining. We talk all about what it was like for her in the fashion modeling industry. She was a model for quite some time in a fitness model, which essentially means she had to be a professional athlete for her job. I asked her the nitty-gritty questions on what it was like to be a model. What was the scrutiny like? What was it like to show up to different places and have people say that you are not good enough? And then transitioning into her role owning one of the most sought after and high-end lagree personal training masterclass gyms in Austin, Texas and Atlanta. And not only is it a Sculpthouse boutique fitness studio, but it's also a boutique fashion studio. They are incredible with keeping up with trends. They are ahead of the curve with so many things. And I think that this conversation with Katherine was really entertaining because she's just a real girl. She's not someone who's going to say, hey, yeah, I don't eat any dairy, and then just goes and woofs a piece of pizza. She is the most authentic, easygoing mother to be. We talk all about how she thought she really was. She was like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was ready for a baby. I don't think I'm ready. We have so much to do. And how it really lit a fire under her ass to get things going, get things moving, because she had a timeline. She's like, I have 9 months to figure this out. And we walk through all of that with her. She's funny. She's dynamic. She's done a ton. She has a good head on her shoulders as well. We don't get to hear from so many people who are so secure in themselves as a person. She has a really strong sense of self. That's another thing that I really admire about Katherine. Again, y'all will love this episode. If this is your first time listening to Hotter Than Health, the podcast, welcome. I am so happy to have you here. Here's an ask. If you are listening for the first time, or if you're listening not for the first time and you've been here forever, it would mean the world if you looked at whatever app that you're listening to this on. If you're driving, just take a pause or do this when you get to the next stoplight or stop sign. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, it's the little purple guy, then hit follow. Leave a review if you can. It's really great for SEO, and talk about this episode specifically. And also, if you are listening on Spotify, hit follow, and that way you'll never miss an episode. It helps me track however many people are listening, and if you are following, then you are much more likely to win some of our giveaways. You are likely to not miss out on some of your favorite guests. We have people like Kenzie Burke, we have Mimi Bouchard, Katherine Mason, Helen Hall, Naomi Olindo. Like, I honestly, we are just killing it over here at Hotter Than Health. I don't mean to humble brag, but we're doing great. I want to give a quick teaser for next week. Next week, or the week after, I'm not sure when I'm going to drop this one, we have a medium coming on the podcast. This is actually, it has oddly been one of the more requested people. A lot of, some people will say, oh, get someone about gut health and probiotics and all these things, which are great, and we will. But then there are a lot of requests for mediums and spiritual advisors. And I know there's one spectrum of people who say, oh, it's BS. They do their research beforehand. They're vague. They can say whatever. And then there's the other side of the bridge where people they've had incredible experiences that are so specific that it could only be not supernatural, but it could only be an energetic gift. And I'm so excited to have this on there. It's going to be it'll be a pretty entertaining episode. I'm pumped about it, and we're gonna hear more about that in the coming weeks. But I had to tease you guys about that. So another reason to make sure you're following, because we're going everywhere with this podcast. We have Katherine Mason today, and she's going to give us all of the tea, all of the juice, all of the stories, and all of the wisdom that she has acquired over the past 9 to 10 years, and all that she has learned while being pregnant. And she has so much to impart for us. I think you guys are absolutely going to love this episode. Please make sure you rate us 5 stars on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Do us a solid and make sure you review. You will also be entered in to win Review of the Week, so you'll get a Hotter Than Health tote bag, and maybe I'll throw in some goodies there as well. Without further ado, we have Katherine, and I'm so excited to share all of this goodness with you all today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
All the shit that happened during the pandemic really happened for certain reasons in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that without the force of what happened in the pandemic and how it affected my business and me personally, like it really affected me personally, because we had to shut down some locations and it was just a huge hit to the ego and mental health and everything else. But I'm here today, pregnant and going to welcome a little baby girl, which I am terrified about, by the way. But that's like a really big deal for me because I don't think that I would be in this situation. I was specifically on birth control, got an IUD when I got married so that I would have like at least 5 years to not have a baby because I knew that I needed to focus on my business. So when you ask what's, going on in my life, I would say this is a really pivotal time for me and my business, because I'm having to also think through what I need to do to be able to do both. And that's why I've maybe taken some time to get to this place. I've been married for 5 years and kind of kept putting it on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like I was talking with, or I heard a conversation that a friend had, Helen Hall.
Yes.
And she's just the greatest. I feel like I reference her on every podcast. She's just such a connector and just so wonderful.
She's amazing. And she's, here in Atlanta all the time now and also pregnant. And we actually found out that we were both pregnant before anyone else really knew that we were. And we were both like, how are we going to do this? But anyway, we have definitely been very close in contact recently.
Good. She's how I found you a couple of years ago, but then I only recently started to really dive into what you do business wise and all of the accolades that you have. I genuinely, I knew that you were making an impact, but I didn't realize how much of an impact you were making in the community in the women's space, which I think is really incredible. We'll get into that, but I want to rewind to something that you said. You said that you were basically forced into the position that you were in without a lot of say in a lot of the matter, not the pregnancy, but you were forced into growing and pivoting and all those things. If I hear the word pivot one more time,
I know, right?
But
it is the word, but we're all tired of it.
Yes, exactly. It's like balance. We all know, but come on. So you mentioned that you had, it sounds like a lot of people who I hear say, oh my gosh, I could not have a baby right now. I'm just so busy. I don't have any idea how I would do it. But then on the flip side of that, I think that there are so many times, unless you have a really tough pregnancy, you're sick every single day. There's so many other factors that play into it. But in a textbook pregnancy, it almost really forces you to be the most productive you've ever been, to create
Absolutely.
systems. Like it forces organization so that you can have someone else take over in that space.
You're saying it so well.
And you don't get, I'm sorry, I assume a lot of independent business owners, a lot of the time they don't get maternity leave. You're not like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a real thing that I'm like not sure how it's going to happen. But yeah, to kind of like go into that, I kind of got to a point. It was like I remember it was like my birthday of last year. My birthday's in August, so we're almost a year from this moment.
what if you have
And
the baby on your birthday?
well, I don't think that's possible because she would be like very late, but
Oh, true, true,
we are going to be within like I don't know. It just depends on when she decides to come, I guess.
true.
But we're going to be within probably the same month, which is like really cool. And also my husband is 10 days or actually not 10 days. He is 5 days after me. He's August 30th and my dad is August 23rd and I'm the 25th.
What is
So
that
like
zodiac sign?
Virgo, we're crazy. She will be a Leo, I think. But yeah,
Ooh,
I mean it's like, you know, a lot of my favorite people all in the same month, which was exciting for sure.
that's amazing.
But I had this moment around my birthday last year where I felt like I physically, mentally, emotionally had to slow the fuck down or I was going to just like shatter or something. And I think it was a response to all of the years leading up to the pandemic, starting my business, which I started my business and the business plan and all of that 2 years before we actually opened. So, and we opened in 2016. And then, you know, in 2020, all of this craziness happened, and I'm the only owner of the business. I don't have a business partner. I own 100% of the company.
Wow.
I do have loans and things that are very scary, of course. But even that aside, I just grinded myself. And I felt like it's so funny now and just like whatever. But 2020 was going to be like my year. It was going to be the year that I had worked my ass off for all these years. I had opened all these locations and 2019 was a really pivotal year in terms of just like the trajectory that the business was taking. And then 2020 was really going to be, I think, when we felt that hard work and that those building blocks come to life. And then of course it was the actual opposite. So in August of last year, I think that it just all hit ahead because I had to fight this battle of COVID and all that came with it and
Mm-hmm.
all these locations that I had. And I had 100 employees. I'm not even kidding. When the pandemic hit, that I had to lay off and figure out how to deal with that. And I really pride myself in employing people. And so that was a blow.
I'm
And
sure.
so all of this combined, and there's so much there. I mean, I could talk about this for
We'll,
hours and
this
days
needs to
and
be its
whatever.
own. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But it's like August 2021 was just like my breaking point. And I think that, and I'm almost even scared to say this because it's not like I was like, I just need to have a baby. Because like, I actually don't really like children that much.
This is not advice for anyone listening. This is not advice. Go have a baby. It will fix everything.
Yeah, because like it really won't. But I think that it was just like, I needed something in my life to change. My husband also had been ready to have a baby for years and I wasn't for years. And so in a way I was like, you know, we've been married for 4 years now and I've got to change something in my life. And what has changed all these years is really my career and building my career and working hard. And it's not been taking care of myself. And it's
Yeah.
not been anything that really focused on me. And so in a way, it just felt like this will help in a way slow things down. And it's what we eventually wanted. I just didn't know when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I did get pregnant very quickly, and I'm so grateful for that, but it was a huge surprise
I feel like
how
so many people
quickly.
get off of birth control and they're like, yeah, in a few months, maybe 6 months, all these things. But typically, as soon as you get off birth control, typically your sex hormone, like definitely your libido is higher. You want to have sex even more. So all of these things, if things are working properly inside, then
Yeah.
it's like pretty, it can be super
Yeah, and
quick.
I will say, like, I'm such a sort of perfectionist and control freak, typical Enneagram 8, want control of everything in my life. And
Virgo.
I did go get blood work done and all these things before I decided to really kind of like pull the goalie and everything. So we knew everything was good and all of that, because I am a control freak. I didn't maybe want to start that process, if you will, without knowing that. So
Sure.
it did happen very fast, but it forced me, because it happened fast, I did freak out. I had a lot of anxiety, and I was afraid to tell people, not only because I was processing it for a very long time myself. Like for the first 12 weeks, I didn't even talk about it with my husband almost, because I
Yeah.
was just internally trying to process it. And then it wasn't until about 16 weeks, or maybe even longer than that, that I told some of my employees, because as a female business owner, I was afraid to let them down. And I felt that a lot of them would freak out, because we have grinded so hard
Mm.
to stay afloat, to regrow, to rebuild. And now this baby is coming, and is she just going to go into la la land and not care about us anymore? And all of this was in my head.
Of
None of that
course.
actually happened,
Sure.
but I buckled down. I buckled the fuck down. And I started working so hard at just mapping out my entire business from every aspect, and how do I make it better? How do I make it stronger? And then personally, what do I need to do to get myself ready? Do I need to hire people? Do I need to get rid of people? Do I need to put processes in place? The answer was absolutely. And so, there's a lot there too, but I finally feel like 8 months in, and I found out when I was like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks pregnant. So I have had a lot of time
That's
to
amazing though.
yeah, to know all of this and plan. And so thank goodness.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's been
That's
it's been very
amazing.
stressful. It's been very scary. I am still scared. I'm more scared of this next journey in my life than I was starting my business. But I'm also excited, because I think that it has already made me a better business owner. And how cool that something that is so possibly seen as a deterrent to women business owners, or even just causing kinks in the system of owning your own business, how it may actually make you a lot stronger.
Yes, and it provides so much more depth of character. Not to say that people can't be deep without having a baby,
Yeah.
but it adds a layer, especially to a female business owner, of maybe vulnerability that other people may be seeking advice from, or it makes them see you in a different light. Oh my God, this woman is pregnant and she's still hustling her ass off and focusing on the number one, which, of course, in this situation is, your body health, baby, but then overarching in life, you're still living your day-to-day life. You still
Yeah.
have to run this business. And I want to ask about that. I mean, people know you are the sole owner of Sculpthouse, which is now in how many locations?
So now we have Buckhead and Dallas. We did have more locations before the pandemic.
Sure.
But here goes that word, pivot. We pivoted a
I
lot.
shouldn't have said anything. I shouldn't have said anything.
But what's so cool now is that, yes, I would say only, because running 2 locations in 2 different states, with a fitness component and a boutique is like having 4 businesses. So it's not only, but it's a lot smaller than it used to be, but our revenue is close to where we were when we had more locations, because we're just
That
getting
is
better.
awesome. That's
And we
amazing.
have this new, well, it's not really new, but our online store, our e-commerce channel, it has exploded, and it exploded during COVID. But
Sure.
it is now like this force to be reckoned with that's just growing. So 2
That's so badass.
locations, 2 brick and mortar locations. And then very soon we're opening our warehouse to really expand our online store.
So Sculpthouse is in essence, again, yeah, pivoting. It's in essence a boutique with a focus in fitness with a fitness studio inside. Whereas did it start more, hey, we just want to have a fitness studio, but we want to make sure that lifestyle and fashion is a component, because when you look good, you're working out harder, everything like feels better in a workout outfit. Was that the essence of what it was and now what it will be?
Well, I think there's some truth to that. But when we talk about what the brand was day one, it was always fitness and fashion. That's who I am as an individual. I've always been that way. I'm very feminine in some ways, and I'm also have sort of a masculine energy in some ways too. I played a million sports. I was always like a very aggressive sports player, like in soccer, midfield and defense, and in field hockey, like I was, a
Yeah.
defender a lot of the time. So I have these 2 sides to me. And so this business is really a reflection of that. I love fashion. I love skincare and beauty. Like one day I would love to even maybe start like a skincare line.
You have
I
no
just
pores.
Oh my gosh, you're so
Oh,
nice. Pregnancy has actually been really good to me that way. So I will like shout out to that. Because
I
you
can't
never
wait for
know.
that someday. Boobs and good skin. I'm like, yes, please. That
Yeah,
sounds
the skin
great.
has been good, thank goodness. But from day one, fitness and fashion was the brand. We always were gonna have these small entrepreneurial fitness fashion brands. Think of it as the antithesis of Nike and Under Armour and Lululemon. It was kind of everything else. And so that was always going to be a component. It became a lot bigger than I ever expected it to. Part of that was at our Buckhead location, when I finally was able to find a location that allowed us to sign a lease, because I was 25 years old, had very little business experience, and who was going to really trust me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So when we finally found the space, it was about 1,000 square feet bigger than what we probably needed. So I was like, well, we're just going to put more clothes in there. I mean, this is awesome. Actually, I'm kind of being put in a situation where I have to have more clothes, which really sounds pretty awesome and
Sounds
probably more
great.
like me anyway. And then from there, once we opened, the fashion grew more and more every year. And now it's to the point where it actually does more revenue than the studio side. But
That is wild.
the studio concept was probably the start of it. So, you are right in that. And many people think of us as a fitness studio,
Mm-hmm.
but we're really not just a fitness studio. We really
Sure.
are both. And the athleisure component and the shoe business that we have is pretty insane.
Amazing. And you have some really incredible clients who are ride or die for Sculpthouse, I feel. And
Yeah.
when you are looking at the business, when you're looking at the fitness studio concept, so just focusing on the fitness portion, you and I were emailing and I was so embarrassed. You said, hey, by the way, not Pilates, it's lagree. There's a difference. We can talk about it. Can you walk me through? This is just very high level because I do mat Pilates and I love that type of movement, but I've always been interested in other forms similar. Can you
Yeah.
talk about what is lagree and what is it not? And what
Yes.
else do you incorporate into your workouts?
Yes. So I found out a lot more about lagree fairly recently, actually. So, uh, I think this is a lot of information that people don't actually know, because I have owned a lagree fitness company for a lot of years and I'm just now learning some of this. So, I first was exposed to lagree in New York City. I worked at SLT, which is a very well known megaformer studio in New York. And it was never really forced down our throat that this was like lagree specifically. They always used the term Pilates on steroids, as a lot of studios do, as a lot of studios that are megaformer studios do. And so there is a lot of confusion in the industry. There was actually a time when we used some of that language not that long ago because it is the easiest thing to compare it to. And these machines look crazy. They're very different from so many things out there. Uh, and so when you're trying to explain to someone what Sculpthouse is or what this machine is, the easiest thing is to say it's like Pilates or it's Pilates on steroids or modern Pilates or whatever. But what the story is behind lagree is that Sebastian Lagree was in LA. This was back in, like, I think the 90s. And he worked for a gym that had a Pilates reformer. He taught classes and privates on these Pilates reformers, but started to kind of make his own version of that workout.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. When you are traveling and your meals are a little bit off, the timing of your meals are off, you feel like you're a bit out of habit, and maybe you're just feeling peckish. You're like, okay, I'm traveling, so I'll just have a banana, or I'll have some fruit, or I'll just have some eggs, or I'll have a piece of toast or a bagel with cream cheese, whatever it is. When I travel and I don't get at least 2 or 3 macronutrients out of the 4 or 5 that I consider, I can tell that I feel like my metabolism slows down. And I know that I'm hyper aware and hyper intuitive about my body, but I promise you, I do recognize that I actually hold on to weight and carry weight if I do not eat proper meals. And I know I've talked about that before, where your body goes into a state of fight or flight and it holds on to fat or extra water weight as protection, or you get bloated more easily because your body is sensitive. This is what happens to me without fail if I do not have some type of balanced meal. That is why over the past 2 weeks that I've been traveling, I was gone for 10 days, I brought Organifi protein powder. I did look like a crazy drug lord because it was the vanilla protein powder. I brought it in a baggie, but here's what I did. I knew that I was going to have a long travel day. I think we had like a 7 or 8 hour travel day getting to Denver. I put a glass water bottle empty, but put some of the 1 serving of protein powder so that when I got to the airport, I knew I would get either a banana or some avocado toast, some type of carb and or fat, and I had my protein powder with me. So I did that along with whatever snack that I had so that I knew I was at least getting protein, carb, and fat. If I couldn't get fiber or if I couldn't get extra greens, I knew that by having the protein powder with me, it really helped. And I'm not saying you need this for every single meal, and I'm not even saying it's a meal replacement. But if you're traveling and you know that you get like that, or you get hangry, or you get bloated if you don't eat and then you eat too much, it's a mess. This has really helped me stay level. It's helped me not get hangry and frustrated when I travel. But I would highly recommend traveling with the Organifi protein powder because it also has the digestive enzyme in it, which is incredibly helpful, especially if you are someone whose digestion gets a little bit wonky during travel. All right, so you're going to check out Organifi.com. Check out the chocolate protein. I did the vanilla this time, but the chocolate is, I think, at my absolute favorite. But again, it's glyphosate free, vegan, dairy free. It is glyphosate free is the absolute biggest one. Soy free, GMO free, sugar free, everything free, plus only good things in it. I highly recommend this brand. I let all of my clients know about it. If you're traveling, if you're on the go, leave it in your car. Don't leave it in water. Just leave the powder in your car, set it up into baggies like your own little drug lord, and it'll be so cute. And you'll just have all of your little supplements ready to go. No more bloating, stomach aches, no more hangry, and no more unbalanced meals. No more excuses, guys. Make sure you're checking out Organifi.com using the code HTH at checkout. That will get you 20% off of any purchases that you make. Again, that is Organifi.com/HTH using the code HTH for 20% off. You will not regret it, and you will never go hangry again.
So Sebastian was implementing this new version of Pilates on the reformer, and he went viral pretty much in LA with actresses and models and all different types of people with this version that he created. And eventually he decided to make his own machine because there were limitations with the Pilates reformer. You could only do so much weight. It has this neck protector thing. I don't even know what the right term is that limits what you can do on that part of the machine. And there are no front and back platforms. So he created the first version of the Megaformer. And the biggest call out and the difference in the machine is that the Megaformer, even to this day, and he's created a million versions of it, has a front and back platform that you use for lots of exercises. So there's a front platform, a back platform, and there's a carriage in the middle that is on a spring system that goes back and forth with spring resistance. And you're sitting, standing, kneeling, on your forearms, on your toes, whatever, all over this machine. But on a reformer, you are very limited with the types of exercises that you can do based on the fact that you only have the carriage part for the most part. And so that's the main call out in the design. But in terms of the method, one of the biggest call outs is that the springs are very different, and you are able to lift and lower the springs in the spring system way more like quickly, and it's more of a fast-paced version in that way. There's also a larger range of spring resistance. So we have a ton of professional athletes, men, women,
That's
whatever.
what I was wondering about. I was wondering, like, what is your clientele and what surprises people?
It is everyone. We have the most diverse clientele, and that's why I love this method. That's why I wanted to bring it to Atlanta and wherever, is because you can be a professional athlete like Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford, who have come and taken class with us.
Are they
big
from
NFL
the Falcons?
athletes. So neither one of them are at this point, but Matt Ryan was our quarterback in Atlanta for a long time. And Matthew Stafford went to Georgia. He was a few years above me. And now he just won the Super Bowl with the LA Rams.
Oh, that's
so
fine.
Like top tier athletes, NFL, NBA, baseball players, a little bit of everything, or just your average male, female, people that have crazy injuries. I had a terrible back injury, and this was like the only thing I could do. I couldn't even walk or run without pain, but the Megaformer helped me rehab back.
Are people in there who are, they've heard the name Sculpthouse and they are like, okay, we got to check this out. And then they sign up just to see what athletes and influencers go there. Are they so excited for that?
Well, I would say that there is a lot of that. I mean, even Jennifer Aniston was coming and working out with us for a long time when she was filming in Atlanta, which was so cool.
Okay.
But then there are just a lot of average normal people and a lot of people that are not in shape. So I think that's what's so cool about this method. And what makes lagree versus Pilates so cool is that it's so customizable. You can modify it in so many ways. And Pilates is, I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's pretty vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of is one thing. It's more restorative. It's more focused on breathing. It's more focused on sort of maintaining muscle tone. And it was originally created for people that were in hospital beds. So if you think about like what a Pilates reformer is and sort of this bed like, and some people
Yeah.
even call it the bed. We don't call it that in lagree, but sometimes, you're laying down, you're laying on your side. Pilates is more um
One dimensional.
one dimensional in that way. And so people were able to get their muscles moving while they were in a hospital bed.
So with
And so
lagree, you can actually build muscle tone and add on more resistance to make it more challenging. Obviously, Pilates is so challenging. There's no question about that. But is it more of a
it's
for
a
the person?
strength training. It is
Okay.
a strength training based workout.
Okay.
No denying that. And it is more about building. I kind of hate saying long lean because long muscle is not even really correct, but
No.
it's the idea of just beautiful sculpted muscle tone. And it not only is strengthening the big muscles that you hear of and you think of, but all of the ligaments and all of the supporting baby muscles. And Sebastian Lagree was actually a bodybuilder. That's why he originally was attracted to the Pilates reformer and then eventually making the megaformer, because it was able to sculpt the muscles in a way that just regular strength training was not able to.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people have even talked about how they've grown half an inch from doing these types of workouts because it
Yes,
it elevates your
lengthening the
posture. And
yes,
like shoulders come back. And I always think about it, and I think about having a little I don't
string
know, a
through the
string
top
from the
of the
top of my
head.
head. Yes, so that anytime I do any move, I'm like, okay, how can I make this 1% longer, but while keeping things tight, not just bending.
Yes,
Okay. But
we're very, very form focused, very form focused.
good.
And so the way that I really got to elevate my knowledge in lagree was that I first started, in 2013 in New York. I would say my education in lagree was pretty limited. They did not do a whole lot of continued education at that time, at least. And then I decided to start my own fitness studio, Sculpthouse. We got certified officially in lagree. We really focused on staying true to the method, but it wasn't until the last few years when I got level 2 certified. So there's level 1 that a lot of people have, level 2. And then I got invited by Sebastian Lagree to be one of 25 global master trainers.
I'm
And
sorry.
it
That
was
is
so cool.
cool.
It was really so cool. And I don't really teach classes anymore. So there are probably a lot of haters out there that really hate that I have that title, but like, I don't care. Um,
The thing is that you're teaching it by explaining it, and you're still hyping it up. You're still educating people on it, you
yeah.
know?
And I've employed like a lot of people and been in this industry for a long time. So, things can look a whole lot of different ways.
Sure.
Um, but, and I've also been taking this method for 10 years. So like I have a lot of time that I've learned about the method and all that. But anyway, so I flew out to California back in October of last year and did my level 3 certification. It was a intensive weekend with Sebastian Lagree and these other 25 or 24 people from around the world. And he really invested his time in educating us on the difference between Pilates and the Megaformer and his story and how it evolved and what the method is doing. And the answer is that Lagree really focuses on constantly staying educated and ahead of science and the body. And so
Mm,
I think Pilates is kind of stuck back in the history of fitness,
mhm.
and Lagree is trying to always move forward. And more recently, they focus more on pre and postnatal,
Love
and
that.
and that is obviously rung very true with me as of recently. So I actually got pre and postnatal education in lagree before I was pregnant, and we have rolled it out as a company with every trainer. So
Good.
every trainer learn about what is safe during pregnancy or even after you have a baby, and what's not, because it's not the same. And what's been so humble for me is that I have been doing this method for so long, and I am a very athletic person. It comes naturally to me, but during pregnancy, it is so much different. And really going through getting the education on the pre and postnatal, thinking I know what that means, actually, like learning it, but then not experiencing it, now experiencing it. It's just like the light bulb really actually went off.
Yes.
And now I'm able to explain to people from my own knowledge. And so, to our point earlier, I feel like not only is it more relatable to people that I'm in this new stage of life, but I have so much more knowledge to give to our customers
Sure.
and invest in our employees and trainers so that they can give our community like the very best in fitness and all
It's
these different layers.
it's another level of credibility for you in a
Yeah,
way, and
yeah.
for all of your trainers too. And I want to go back to something you said. You mentioned you're very athletic. You have grown up playing a ton of different sports, competitive. You also were a fitness model. And I want to go back to the times when you were, was it Wilhelmina Models?
Yes,
That,
that's
which is one of, I mean, I know nothing about the fashion world and all of that. I think it's so interesting and I'd love to learn more about it. But if you were to ask any layperson, name any modeling industry or agency, Wilhelmina would most likely be one of the two or three that they said, like Elite or Wilhelmina. That is so cool. Can you talk about how you were discovered? How did you get into that? And then I want to talk about bodies and expectations and things like that that come along with being in that industry.
yes. So, yes, I was signed to Wilhelmina on their fitness board, which is so important to realize is very different from like the runway or other boards. Not to discredit it, but it's a very different type of body, type of person, skill set,
Sure.
etc. Um, but when I was in my first job outside of college, because truthfully, I had very little experience even starting my business, but I graduated from Georgia with a PR degree, started working in PR, really hated not working for myself. And why I say that is that I have known from a very young age that I wanted to start my own business. That has never really been something that like it's just always been on my mind. And so when I had my first job, and I didn't really love my experience with exactly what I was doing in this job. But it also was just like and as a kind of my personality and everything else, I really have to be excited about what I do. And when I do, I put like 150% into it. I'm kind of 0 100.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life and what my career was going to be. And long story short, decided to go to New York City to immerse myself in the fitness industry. And as I was coming up with like what is my plan when I get there, I had been talking to this guy who was connected in the modeling industry, and he had a conversation with me about fitness modeling. I didn't know much about it, but the thing that makes it so different is that the people that are successful in the fitness modeling, it's not necessarily about looks as much as skill set. Do you know how to play a bunch of sports? Are you body aware? Are you able to replicate golf, tennis, basketball, soccer, field hockey, ice skating, whatever it is? And not just maybe one, but like a lot of them on camera. And and I played a lot of sports growing up, and I do have a lot of body awareness. And
You're naturally coordinated.
yeah, and so
What is that like?
well, there are a lot of things I'm not good at. So, I mean, we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. So I was really interested in this because I love fashion. I love photography. I have a very artistic side of myself. So I appreciate the photo shoot, the editorial, the everything that comes with that. It's very fascinating to me. And then I love fitness. And so basically I when I went to New York, I started meeting with Wilhelmina because they are the best when it comes to the fitness modeling. And I met with the director there, and basically he said, you don't have a lot of experience, but you moved to New York. And that was one thing I was talking to him before I moved to New York. And he said, I can't even talk to you until you live here, because you have to just like go as soon as you get here. There are castings every day, blah, blah, blah. So when I decided to make the move, I started meeting with him. And so he did give me a chance, and I had to work really hard to build a photography book. It wasn't jobs that I had done, because I
Mhm.
hadn't done any jobs, but just working with different photographers and photographing me playing golf and other different things. And they eventually signed me within a few months of going up there. And it was really exciting. It was such a crazy experience, because I am a control freak. I am an extremely hardworking person. And so for other people to decide my success based
Mm.
on looks, skills, whatever, didn't work well for me.
I
But
wanna
it was really good for me at the same time.
I want to know about that because you are the kind of person who I feel like you're not one who's just going to be told exactly what to do all the time. I don't feel like that
No.
works. And that's exactly why you are as successful as you've been today and why you've made such an impact so consistently. But when you were modeling and when you got into that, what was it like being judged all day long for your job? Because I feel like that would, unless you have a really strong sense of self, that would start to deplete the ego. It makes you look at your body differently. I know so many people, I don't know so many people, but I know of so many people who have developed eating disorders, body dysmorphia, all of these different things. And it's a wild industry to be in. So can you think of any times where you really had to challenge your mindset, how you were thinking, and or if you saw other people who really went down a not so great path and you saw them with eating disordered or disordered thinking, anything like that? What were some of those experiences?
Well, I will say that I do have a very strong sense of self. And I think that really helped me. It also helped me sort of get out of the industry, because I sort of just decided like this is ridiculous, and my success is not going to be dependent on whether I have the right skin color or hair or eyes, or I don't know how to do a sport as well as so and so, or maybe even there's a girl that looks just like me, but this girl is a favorite of the director, which was true. There was a girl that looked just like me. I could definitely play soccer better than her. She was more of a yogi. I couldn't do yoga. I mean, there are things, that
Of
people are,
course.
but like, why did she get the soccer job? Like, that's ridiculous. But she was really close with the agent. So I didn't like that. But that strong sense of self did help me, because I would say I had some moments where the comparison game absolutely happened, where I was really trying to lean out even my muscle tone, because I remember one time my agent said that my like thighs were getting too muscular, which they were very muscular. Um,
When I hear these things sometimes from people, how did your manager say that to you? Did she say,
Oh,
"Hey," she
just straight. And
oh,
it was a guy. And it was a guy. My chest was becoming extremely flat. I always had
what are you
boobs.
supposed to do? Like,
Well, eventually I got my boobs done.
fair enough, fair
But
enough.
I always had a pretty curvy figure. I had, pretty big boobs like growing up, and a curvy butt, and then I was muscular and had a small waist, and that was great or whatever, and that maybe helped me kind of get into this industry, because it was becoming more of the norm. Like, I remember when I was in like middle school, and curves weren't cool,
It
and
wasn't like Kate Moss and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, things like changed. So that was good, but I did become this like machine, and so I lost my boobs and became very flat, and then
Were you like starving yourself?
no,
Were you just
I've
working out a
never
ton?
just working out a ton, and
Okay.
my body really loves working out. And so yeah, I mean, food has never been an issue for me. And I think
Great.
that I'm so grateful for that, because I can't imagine how much that can take over someone's mind. So
Sure.
I'm really sensitive to that. And that was definitely an issue for a lot of people. I
Mhm.
luckily never had that issue. Um, but I think it is really hard when people just bluntly say, like, your ass is becoming more muscular and you have no boobs anymore. And
Like you're
you're
not
like,
good enough anymore because of that.
yeah. And I'm like, well, damn, I'm just trying to work out hard so that when I go to the Nike uh photo shoot and have to work out for 8 hours, that I'm not sucking wind. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that also what you want me to do?
You
Because it
like
was
have to be a
really,
professional athlete.
you have to be a professional athlete. So that was a really interesting time for me. And it didn't really mess with my head too much. But I
Amazing.
do think that it made me just see how ridiculous some of that was. And my education didn't matter. My work ethic didn't matter. Um, a lot of
Yeah.
things didn't end up really mattering. And that's just not the kind of person that I am. And so I had to sort of rethink that. And eventually I ended up moving back to Atlanta to start my business. And so they would have never let me come back to Atlanta and stay a
Yeah.
part of Wilhelmina anyway. But it was a great experience for me to figure out a lot about myself and get a tougher skin, because
Yeah.
opening a business and having hundreds, thousands of customers who just honestly rip you apart a lot of the time, or
Mhm.
whatever it is, landlords, attorneys. I mean, I've been sued a bunch of times. All of
Really?
Oh yeah, I mean, things I haven't even done wrong. Like, it's just
Sure.
the nature of business. I don't think that I would have I don't think that I would have been able to handle all of this so well if I hadn't been through that modeling
Yeah.
situation.
Last question about the modeling.
Yeah.
What was the most ridiculous? It can be scary, it can be wild, outrageous, it can be fucked up. What was the biggest memory that you have of something that you did not like at a fitness shoot? Or with any like casting director, was there anything crazy that happened that you were like, whoa, this is so not spoken about in the industry, but that happens all the time, or anything like that? Was there anything, or if you had roommates that were going through it, or friends?
Yeah. I'm really trying to think, and maybe I've just forgotten about it because it was bad, but I don't really remember anything that was really super messed up outside of the fact that I do feel like the agent was able to have a huge influence on who was chosen for the job. And that's frustrating to me because that's just not how the world works.
Yeah.
Um, I just remember I just remember going to a lot of castings, and I would get casted for regular lifestyle stuff a lot too. I remember one time I went to like a Bud Light, or it was some type of beer. It was like a Super Bowl commercial
Oh, cool.
casting, and I had to go into this room and like act for them basically. And I just remember how ridiculous I felt. And just like, I wish that my friends could have a video of just some of these hilarious situations that I was put in
Like
these
what?
castings. I remember there was one casting, and maybe this is like, I'm trying to remember what was like messed up about it, but there was one casting where I was told to bring a bathing suit, which was like nothing too crazy. Bathing suit and heels, which you're like, okay. I think it was for like Complex magazine or something. And they gave me a robe, but I had to like dance in my little tiny bathing suit in heels on camera. And they just played music and they wanted me to dance or something. And it was just like, what am I doing? This is absolutely crazy.
Were you
But
like snapping? Do you have rhythm? How do you
yeah, I mean, luckily I like
is that if
love to dance
good?
and I do have confidence. So I was just like, all right, here we go. Let's do this. And like with everything that I do, I'm going to try to do it the best that I can. So I went into every one of those weird situations and just rocked it. But I was laughing at myself like the whole
That
subway
is so
ride up,
funny.
and just
They give
like,
you a robe and they're like, here's this cucumber. Do something
yeah,
in
yeah.
that.
I mean, just so crazy. But my roommates were not in the modeling industry. So I didn't really have a whole lot of model friends.
That's nice though that you had reality to go home to.
Oh my gosh, of course. And like I'm I am the kind of person that, I mean, it was so the whole thing was so humbling that reality was just even going to these castings and just being like, what in the world is going on? I mean, there's
Yes.
a lot of beautiful people at them too. And I got to know like some of the really big models in the industry. And of course, those were probably the moments where I felt most like, oh gosh, well, I look nothing like that.
Mhm.
But you know, you just kind of get over it
Yeah.
because, you know, I could probably kick her ass in a class,
There
or,
you go.
you know, we all have our things,
There you
or
go.
we could probably sit down and do a debate and she wouldn't even know what I was talking about. So there's just times in life where you have to know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and applaud yourself for both of them, and then just
Yep.
be confident and move on.
I want to go into pregnancy a little bit, and only because we have a majority female audience. I
Yeah.
don't have any kids, so I just, it's a good thing to be able to ask, especially when your body is changing and you're in the industry where it's all about physique. And
Yes.
so I want to know, what is the biggest expectation that you had, and versus the reality? So expectation versus reality, pregnancy edition.
Well, I think everyone's pregnancy is so different. I imagined mine being a lot different than it is. And I say this because I think I had such a negative connotation around pregnancy. That was me putting ideas in my head because it was a scary thing for me. So I think it's important to highlight the positive. And the positive is that I've had a really great pregnancy.
Awesome.
I have not gotten sick. And preface, everyone's different. I might have a second or third kid and it could be completely different. But
Sure.
I want to highlight the great part and how great it's been for me, because I didn't think it was going to be, and I really went into this with such a negative attitude, honestly. So the fact that I never really got sick, I have felt so normal. I've really been super capable of living life very normally for the most part until third trimester when you really can't move around as much.
Hmm.
But it's been really great, and it's been great for me. I think it's been a little bit of a rebirth for me mentally, in terms of um having a positive attitude about it, realizing that yes, I'm not in control of any of this, and being someone that likes to be in control, which I've talked about this a lot, so I sound like a absolute psycho. But you know, you don't have control of your body, what it's doing, and it's doing all of this whether you like it or not. And it's been
Yeah.
really good. It's been really good to just embrace what's going on, and I'm in awe of my body. And you hear people say that all the time, but until it's actually happening to you, you just can't believe that all of these things are happening.
You are growing like cheeks and shoulders right now.
Like
Isn't
there
that
are
wild?
bones and skin and brains and all of that like
It's so crazy.
inside of me that I created while I'm just at my computer answering emails these past 8 months. Like what in the world? So,
Any cravings that you have
my
noticed?
sweet tooth is absolutely out of this world.
What is your go-to?
I've always loved sweets, and when I go out to dinner, I almost always get a dessert. But this is on a level that like I will find myself in the middle of eating a cinnamon roll, which has been my number one craving, and I am just full face in hands with cinnamon and icing, and just eating like an animal. And I just stop and I laugh and I think, what is happening to me? This is hilarious.
You're like on the floor in the garage. You're like
I'm just like,
having the best time.
I'm taken over by these cravings, and I swear food tastes better than it like ever has tasted.
Oh wow. Oh my God. You're
I
really
mean, I don't
selling
think
it,
it
girl.
happens for everybody, but I don't think a cinnamon roll is going to be nearly as good after baby as it has been, because these cravings are ridiculous. I
Have you
also have really been loving like fruit, which a lot of people say, ice cream. I'm not a huge ice cream person normally, but pretty much have ice cream like almost every night.
What
So I'm
flavor?
strawberry.
I love strawberry ice cream, but it has to have
Yeah.
like strawberry chunks in it,
Yeah, and
you know?
I've always liked that, but this is to the point where I'm like eating a pint on like a Tuesday.
It's on your face. It's everywhere, dripping down your thumbs. Uh,
Yeah,
That's amazing.
exactly.
I'm always so curious to hear about cravings. And before we get into a quick rapid fire,
Yeah.
that's redundant, but before we get into rapid fire, what is your wellness routine during the day? You have the best skin, you're so put together, your eyebrows. I mean, everyone needs to just look you up right now. You
Oh
just
my God.
are so put together, and but you have your own style. Can you walk us through what you do wellness wise? Is there a green juice? Is there a specific meal, supplements? Walk us through your day to day of wellness, health, lifestyle.
Well, it is so nice that you think that I'm put together because I would say that I don't feel like I'm put together. I
Nobody
feel
does.
like my career and my work is very organized and put together, but then like my personal life is just like an absolute shit show. But okay, so daily routine, I don't think that I have one or have had one in a really long time because just owning a business. I'm trying to get better at that. I would say pregnancy has gotten me better at that. But in terms of things that I do regularly and I really try to prioritize, um, of course, working out at Sculpthouse, you'd be surprised that I don't work out like 5 days a week. I work out like 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week, or maybe some weeks none at all. It just
Mm-hmm.
really depends. I would love to work out more, but life is life. And so sometimes you go in seasons. I do really focus on my skincare, and I think it's also a way that I kind of give back to myself is by um like self-care for me is like skincare
Are you
and
talking
stuff.
facials? What are some of your favorite products and things you
Yeah,
do?
so I do a facial like every 4 weeks, and that is like my thing that I always do.
What kind?
I go to this lady, she actually doesn't accept any new people and she's sort of like under the radar. But I started
Oh,
going to
great.
her a long time ago, but she customizes your facial every time you go in. Microdermabrasion is going to be like the go-to. She also uses a clay mask um to like get impurities out. There's always some extractions that go on. But I've dabbled in different types of products and things like that. And I really love experimenting with them. But shout out to Skin Farm, who is in Atlanta. They're also in Dallas and Nashville, and they're growing like crazy. And the
I'm
founders
gonna
and
write them down.
it's women owned, and I'm just like so impressed by them, and they've created their own products. And I've been using them before my pregnancy, during my pregnancy, and pretty much my whole routine was pregnancy safe. And I just feel like my skin has been so happy with their products, and anyone can get them. They have an e-commerce site as well,
Skin Farm.
Skin Farm, and it's farm like pharma or
Oh,
pharmacy.
PH. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So all of my skincare is Skin Farm. They have like amazing serums and face washes and all these things. And they do have a pregnancy bundle, but they have like amazing like retinol. They have so many different types of products.
If you could
So
recommend one skincare tip for anyone who it's pregnancy safe and you can do it whenever, what would you recommend, like number one, if people are just starting out?
I mean, I would almost say sunscreen.
Okay. Yes, there you go.
Yeah, I mean sunscreen and like moisturizer. I mean, also washing your face, but they have like this youth serum which is very hydrating that I am obsessed with, and my skin has been very dry during pregnancy and sort of dry in general, but it's this serum and it's great, and you can just like put it all over your face and your neck and your chest. That's a really amazing product. But their cleanser is great. I really think that just the sun is so damaging, and I'm very fair, so if you look at any pictures of me, I'm either really fair or I have a spray tan. There's no natural sun on this skin. But I think that's what's gonna, I really want to make sure that my skin itself is clean and clear because I don't like wearing a lot of makeup. I do love makeup and I love products, but it's not on an everyday basis. Like you're never gonna see me with very much makeup on
Yeah,
because it all starts with your skin, and a lot
sure.
of that is gonna be just how you treat your skin and how you're hydrating it.
What about meals? Do you stick with any rituals or methodology with food or nutrition or hydration? Anything that you must get in or you do not eat? Or
Yeah. So I have been fairly plant based for probably the last like year and a half.
there you go.
Um, yeah, I have been eating more meat, I would say, in my third trimester, because I feel kind of more craving that way. And I think that is like protein is more important. The brain is forming more in the third trimester. And I have had very low iron. So I think that I'm craving like ground beef, which
Mhm.
is sort of random for me. Um, but that decision wasn't necessarily for any particular reason other than I just like kind of got grossed out by meat. So
Mhm.
I do eat a fairly carb heavy diet. I always have. So like sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, beans, um, things like that. I'm obsessed with Mexican food. So like go to every week is going to be like a taco salad. But before I started eating ground beef again, I also do like ground bison.
Mhm.
But I started making these vegetarian tacos with sweet potato
Mhm.
and cooking it in the siete taco seasoning, and
So
it's
good.
so good. And that's kind of like the base to the taco, and then load it up with like pico and all these different things. I definitely do enjoy dairy, so my stomach loves dairy. I'm lucky in that way. You just never know how that's going to go.
There you
I have
go.
done some food testing, so kind of wanted to dive in a few years ago to what maybe was making me not feel so great. I have had some digestion issues in the past. I think most of them were stress induced.
Sure. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yes. Holy either constipation or super diarrhea if you're stressed out. It's wild.
Yeah, I had to I think that was maybe around my birthday last year actually. When I was in Dallas and I had to go to the emergency room because of this like stomach pain that I was having, and no one could figure out what it actually was. I think it
Impact.
was literally just stress and everything I had taken on during the pandemic and what it was doing to my body.
Mhm.
So that's kind of when I got more strict about the food and just going cleaner. And then honestly, not drinking alcohol during pregnancy has been so game changer. I mean, I really love drinking. Like I'm a really fun person
What
on a margarita, but it has been great to experience life sober, and it's really good for your skin, and I feel amazing. I
and your
go to
sleep?
bed earlier and I sleep amazingly. So I'm going to try to drink less during the week once I am really able to drink.
I feel like once you have baby girl, you'll of course you like want to reach for the glass of wine to celebrate and all these things, but I feel
Yeah.
like everyone's just so tired that if I'm tired, I'm not drinking. Absolutely not. I'm like it. Nope.
Yeah.
I will be in bed under the covers if I have a sip of wine if
Yeah.
I'm tired.
And honestly, I was drinking too much before I got pregnant.
Got it.
I would say that the pandemic made me start drinking too much.
Hmm.
And I didn't have a problem, but I would definitely say that I was drinking, especially during the week, more than I needed to. And it
Sure.
just wasn't productive. And so another thing that this pregnancy has kind of given me is I'm able to wake up a lot earlier and get a lot more done. I'm more focused. I don't have a headache. I'm not hungover. And damn, over 8 months, that's a lot more work that you get done.
Yes, that is compounded interest that you absolutely receive
Yeah.
dividends for. Okay, I want to get into a rapid fire with you.
Okay.
Just quick questions, quick answers. What is one fashion or fitness trend that you're really excited for?
Ooh. In fitness, moving slower and more form based.
Got it. And then what is your if you were a drink, what would you be?
I would probably normally say a margarita, but I just talked about drinking less, so that's really funny.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, probably a margarita, or if it wasn't a margarita, it would be like a fun like watermelon and lime juice or something
Love
like
that
that.
so
Yeah.
much. Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious. Okay, what do you miss the most other than alcohol? What do you miss the most after from being pregnant?
I just cannot wait to go into a class and just like kick my ass and do like a bunch of core because I'm just not really able to.
Yeah, love that. What is your go-to outfit? Throw on, look cute, out the door.
Always a matching set. Typically like Beyond Yoga, Beach Riot, any of the brands that we carry, but always like a bra legging combo with a fun either like APL tennis shoe or some of our SU test shoes and just like matching head to toe.
Love that. And then if last meal, what would it be?
Oh man. Probably Mexican food.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, should it just be the last meal you had? What's the last meal you had?
Probably Mexican food. Pizza. Last night I ordered Papa John's.
You know what? There we are. There we go. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah,
That's what I was
pizza,
waiting for.
sushi, and Mexican just always get me.
So good. Well, I'm so happy to have gotten some time to chat with you. And I know that we're doing a little giveaway. Did you have anything specific in mind that we can go ahead and tell the listeners, or they can enter in to win a giveaway?
Yeah, so I definitely want to give a little discount code for everyone.
Yes.
So you can get 20% off on sculpthouse.com on any of our clothing with I need to make a code. So
Let's
like
use
what
code
should it be?
HTH because that's always what we use for
Okay.
the podcast.
So HTH20 at checkout. That way, everyone can actually take advantage of this, no matter if you're in Atlanta or somewhere else.
I'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh my God, that's awesome. We're so excited. 20% off. Use the code HTH20 at checkout for all of your clothing and workout needs. And I'll have all these links in the show notes for everyone and as well as your contact information. But where can everyone find you and Sculpthouse on social media?
So my account on Instagram is Katherine Mason with a underscore at the end. And then Sculpthouse is our main page. But if you are not in Atlanta or Dallas, the at Sculpthouse boutique is where you can find all the clothes, and it's more of like our e-commerce Instagram. So any of those.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Katherine. This has been so much fun. And I know that we're going to have to do a part 2. And maybe I'll be in Atlanta. Maybe I'll come to Dallas. Never been there. Sounds so fun.
Yeah, would love that. And thanks for having me.
Of course. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
That was Katherine Mason. Thank you so much for listening. I know that she gave you so much good knowledge and info. She's just as easy to talk to as she is to hear. That was episode almost 200, and we're getting close to 200. I can't wait for you all to hear what we have coming out for you in the coming weeks. But if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you are listening to podcasts. If you like this episode, take a screenshot, share it on your social media, and tag Katherine and myself. And maybe you'll be entered in to win some green juice or something spectacular like that. But again, thank you so much for listening. The gratitude is here, and I appreciate all of you who tune in every single week. It means the absolute world. Again, I look forward to hearing from you and how you all enjoyed the episode. And without further ado, we will talk to you all next Thursday.